The only way to prove there isn't a jinx is to keep trying to break it. This is the Arsenal Vision pre-match live stream. My name is Alex Smithy, Blackman, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. This is not a pre-match live stream. This is just a Q&A, just a casual chat with friends. This is in no way a pre-match live stream. And the reason it's not a pre-match live stream is because God knows if it were a pre-match live stream, then it would be a giant jinx. And we aren't a giant jinx. We are a friendly neighborhood podcast here to answer your questions and just have a chat about the Arsenal because we love the Arsenal. We're not here to jinx anything. We're not here to point out that we've lost all 5 games in which we've done a live stream before the game. We're not here to point that out. We're not here to address that. We are here to let you know we just put out a podcast. So don't stop watching this. After this is over, listen to that podcast. It's a good chat. Tim and Paul were on. I did a solo pod on Patreon. You're definitely going to want to skip that. But George Bird, a renowned Academy expert, will be on next week on the Patreon side for a brand new feature, the Academy Roundup. We will have our scouting previews back for the transfer window coming up. So lots going on that side, lots going on this side. Just thrilled that you're here and here with me. Of course, is Jessica. You can find her on Twitter. It's Jessinho. Hello, Jess.
Hey, how are you? I see you actually got a chance to dry your sweatshirt this time around.
Dried the sweatshirt. It's not soaking wet. It is covered in crumbs of various chip-type foods. Haven't had a chance to eat a proper meal yet. Did a podcast straight to the live stream. That is the life we lead. Jess, how are you today?
I'm good. I can't complain. Beyond feeling weird about tomorrow's game, I'm all right. It's weird because it's so quiet. The build up to this game is eerily quiet, which I feel like has something to do with the fact that we all know that we're about 90 minutes away from feeling like we're back on track or the world is ending, so beyond that, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. It is currently snowing like mad, like 3 feet to my left, your right on our screen. It is a major snowstorm here. And it feels like we are in the middle of the maelstrom, so to speak. So it's quite fitting. It's a little bleak and gray and snowy, and that is all happening. But we are not here to talk about the weather. Would that we were. Might be a more pleasant conversation, Jess. I believe we're here to answer questions. I'll let you drive. What is your agenda today? What would you like to cover?
Well, there's a couple of different things. It's never a dull day, in Goonerville, is it? There's the obvious, talk around the COVID situation. It's not looking good, and they're asking for the clubs to tighten up on COVID protocol. But when it's specifically speaking on Arsenal, I think some Gooners were a little bit disappointed or a little bit miffed just to know that, when another team has an outbreak of COVID in their ranks, the game is postponed. But on the first day of the season for us against Brentford, we had 4 players that had positive COVID tests, and important players as well. Not like that matters, but the Premier League was like, we will not postpone this game. It must go forward. And I think health is obviously the most important, but it was a little bit frustrating seeing one rule for one and one rule for another. And there's some Nketiah stuff we can talk about. Arteta seems very preoccupied, or he's prioritizing making sure that Nketiah signs that new deal. It's a little bit irritating to me, but who am I? Smith Rowe and Martinelli available-ish, Aubameyang not in training pictures, and attacking stats. I think we can go over all those things today.
Yeah, great. Well, good. It's a freezing 65 degrees Fahrenheit right now in Southern California. Edgar, believe me, I say this with love, but I'm happy for you. I'm very, very happy for you is what I mean to say. So yeah, the only thing I'd say on the COVID thing, I don't think whataboutism is a great look when it comes to public health and wellness. I said this on the podcast. But I don't think it is whataboutism. I think it is more criticism of a major billion-dollar enterprise not having a coherent policy in place that feels uniform and fair to all of the organizations under its umbrella. And that is sort of shameful because COVID's not going anywhere. And, without a bubble, you're going to see more of this happening. And it's impossible without a clear policy in place for clubs not to feel that they are getting the better or the worse end of the stick at times. So, you just have to, you have to have a policy in place that feels uniform. A lot of people checking in. We're getting nice and cold and gray in West Virginia, but those country roads will take you home, Brennan. So there is that at least. Good song for those of you not familiar. Let's take a question. What do you think?
Yeah, let's take a question. Let's do it.
Do you think a new striker is going to fix the attacking problems? This is the question. We could be on this all day. Get your questions in, by the way. We're going to answer as many of them as we can. Brennan, I see yours. Archangel. The Archangel is in the chat, which is quite a prominent person to have in your chat. That's a little bit intimidating. But what do you think, Jess? Is a striker going to fix the attacking problems? I think a lot of people want to say it's the manager, and a lot of people want to say it's a striker, and some people might want to say, I don't care about football anymore. What do you think?
Well, I think you can look at it several different ways. I think the striker situation, it is a problem, and I think it's a personnel issue in some respects. And that's no, shade to Aubameyang. We know what he's been for us the last couple of years, but I would say that his decline is there to see. So it's not that I don't know. I don't know if I'm deluded by saying that I feel like he's declined, but I think that he is, but beyond that, if we're having issues just getting into attacking situations. So I feel like although a striker may be able to, I don't know, maybe a striker that's in form will be able to finish the one chance that Aubameyang is missing, but all strikers tend to miss a lot of chances. That's just how it is. They have to have a lot of chances so they can miss a couple. So I think when you look at it, of course, another striker will be able to maybe build up better. And maybe that's a part of the issue is that Aubameyang just doesn't have that build up that Arteta is looking for. But we are having issues just creating chances. That's one of our bigger issues. So I feel any striker is going to be starved up top for this current Arsenal setup. So it solves some, but not all. Do we need to get a striker? Absolutely. But I think we need to talk more about how we actually attempt to create chances, and does the way that we play look like, we're just a couple of players away from it all gelling. I have a lot of apprehension and reluctance. I'm reluctant to say that, but what do you think about it? Like, I'm sure that, I know that how you felt about re-signing Aubameyang and all of that kind of stuff. So it's maybe not a surprise to you that he doesn't look like he's at the same level that he was before, but where do you kind of land in terms of like, is it more system or personnel or what in terms of our attacking issues?
So I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like, it's clear to me that we need a better striker. And if you think about the history of Arsenal, there's been someone up front that is a force of nature. It was Alexis. He wasn't really the striker, but he was the force of nature up front. Robin van Persie, 30 goals, 10 assists, could score from anywhere, could link the play and then get on the end of it in a way that, we talk about Lacazette like he could do, but he clearly can't do. Before that, obviously, there was Adebayor and Thierry Henry, Ian Wright, Dennis Bergkamp, Anelka. We've had these players that can do it. We don't have anyone at that level. And while Aubameyang may have been near that level at times in his career, it's clear that he's not there now. Having said that, when you are one of the worst chance creators in the league in terms of big chances and very much mid-table, ninth-ish in terms of creating chances, period, it leads to this question. Given we don't create many big chances, is striker actually the answer? I think if we created roughly a top 6, top 4 level of big chances, that Aubameyang can still get into the positions to finish them and finish them. He misses sitters. He always has, Jess. He misses chances. It's part of who he is. But with the right volume of chances, do I think he's at the peak of his powers? No. Do I think he could still score 18 goals in a league season? Yeah, I think he can get you there. So I think there are players who can be doing better. Getting a better striker who is more of the things we need will improve us. But we will not suddenly go from near dead last in big chances created to near the top with that alone. And that, to me, is more system. And so, like anything, unfortunately, I hate to say it, it is a balance. And, we don't have that balance right. How about another question for you? What do you do with a poor Partey? Obviously, you spike the punch and everybody goes crazy.
Exactly.
You just pour some vodka into the punch. Maybe you throw out some pharmaceuticals. I don't know. You do you. But what do you do with a poor Thomas Partey? Would you play Maitland-Niles and Lokonga? They have done well.
See, now we're in that situation again where I'm seeing reports coming out that Ainsley Maitland-Niles is not happy about his playing time. So do you bring in Ainsley?
Go figure.
Yeah.
When was the last time Ainsley Maitland-Niles was happy? We should have a happiness pod just to measure Ainsley Maitland-Niles' happiness.
It's it's one of those where it's kind of like, okay, well, now what's most important? Well, let's back up a little bit. When Adu and Arteta were kind of being questioned around the summer transfer window and why we decided not to go after a new midfielder, they said that they believe that the starting midfield, or Adu said this, it was Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. That's what they banked on for the season. And I think it probably, like the rest of us, shocked the system that Granit Xhaka was actually out. They were planning, I think, for Thomas Partey to have some injuries, which he has, but not Granit. Now, I think that if that's what they're going for, I think Arteta will continue with that. And I don't know if the answer is to take Thomas Partey out. I'm not sure if I believe that that's the answer at the moment. I really don't. But it's harsh on Sambi because when you look at it, he's done a good job progressing the ball forward and things like that. But Thomas Partey, we kind of got to get him going. We spent 50 million on him, walked up to Atletico Madrid with a briefcase full of money and said, hey, we're taking your player. So I feel like it's almost more important to get Thomas Partey going than try something different. But I'm looking at a player that I don't know what's going on. I've never seen a player look like that before, ever. It's confusing. And so for me, I think I would keep Thomas Partey in. That being said, I don't know if that's going to change much. And it is harsh on Sambi. I think with Ainsley, I wouldn't be surprised if he left in January. I mean, man of the match performance, then dropped for a couple of games. I mean, I just don't know if bringing him in solves any issues either, so I'm not sure. But are you ready to drop Thomas, or do you think it's a little bit of keeping him in to see if he can get some form with Granit now?
I think there are certain players in a team that, for the most part, you just either play them into form or you aren't going to be good. We don't have enough good midfielders to afford to not get the best out of Thomas Partey. So we just got to keep trying and hope it gets better. It's one of those things, right? Like if Aubameyang is going to suck, we don't have anybody else who isn't. So you got to just keep trotting him out there and hope he gets better. I mean, some people might say use Martinelli there. That's kind of interesting. What are you going to do? Are you going to play Xhaka and Lokonga? Is that going to improve it? Don't think so. Maitland-Niles, I love what he's added when he's played. We're never going to be what we want to be if we have to play Ainsley Maitland-Niles over Thomas Partey. Sucks, but it's a reality. And we paid what we paid. He's in his prime. He's making what he's making. Guess what? Go earn your paycheck. Go out there and play in central midfield. I would put Lokonga next to Partey. I think it gives defenses more of a challenge to decide who to isolate, who to go after, who to try to stop. Lokonga can drop a pass in between the lines. He can step around pressure. He's going to make some mistakes that maybe Xhaka won't. But this thing of Xhaka sitting in the left defensive half space and Thomas Partey being alone in midfield, you saw what it led to against Everton. Xhaka comes back, and guess what else comes back? One shot on target and a half. The only other shot we took the whole half was Thomas Partey trying to shoot down satellites. So I think you have to play Partey. I think you have to go with Lokonga, and you have to accept that you made a mistake keeping Xhaka around. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
He'll be gone in a month anyway, and that'll be Sambi's opportunity. Oh, well, here we go. I mean, but I did say that he wasn't in the pictures, but that makes the conversation about who starts tomorrow even more interesting. But just going back to Thomas Partey really quick, he'll be gone in January to go to AFCON anyway. So Sambi will get his opportunity, but I think what they basically decided is it's Xhaka plus somebody else. And so we kind of know what we're going to be up to unless Granit gets injured again, which is unfortunate. I mean, I just think we made a mistake, and it happened so quickly too, how quickly it seemed like, the midfield, but it's been an issue for 5, 6, 7 years now, and we can't seem to get it right. So, but it's going to be Granit plus somebody, and I would just keep Thomas in there until January because he needs to earn that paycheck. He needs to stand up and be that guy.
This is the point. Clubs that make mistakes, that miss big on their big purchases rarely succeed, right? I mean, if Virgil van Dijk had been awful for Liverpool, they don't win titles in Champions Leagues. You know what I mean? You can't miss big, especially when your resources are fairly limited. And we re-signed Oba. Looks like a miss. We went big on Thomas Partey. It's not that he's been awful, but I think it looks like a miss compared to expectations. You have those kind of misses. It's very hard because you don't have other 50 million caliber guys just waiting in the wings, unless you're City or, PSG or whatever. I want to touch on this Oba news, though. I'll let you do this so that it doesn't look bad for me. I like to put you in the position of looking bad, and then I could just sit back and say, "Well, I didn't say it." Do you want to get into the land of speculation about this news, or do you just want to take it on face value that Oba is injured? They're saying back strain, mistraining. I mean, a lot of questions about Aubameyang for Arteta in the press conference. Say, no problem with our relationship. It's just about who's better. But I don't know. I mean, people look. Jess, here's the reality. The most likely thing is that Oba's injured and he can't play. He is a 32-year-old striker. It can happen. He probably did a back flip, front flip. No, well, that would have required a score, but never mind. Point is, you just can't help this speculation because of what's going on around the player having been dropped and Nketiah being brought on ahead of him. But after being dropped for the North London Derby a couple seasons ago, he was out and they said flu and we all laughed and it wound up being malaria and it was real. So how much of the speculation do you want to participate in, or do you just want to say, look, the situation's a mess at striker. Even if he's injured, it doesn't really change that reality?
Well, I mean, I love a little bit of speculation. It's kind of what I do, and then I always
That's why I said you do it, and I'll sit here, turn off my camera. No one will be able to see if I'm nodding this way or yes, yes, no.
I'm for it 110 because my whole thing is I'm always willing to be like, oh, got it wrong. It is what it is. So he may or may not have this. I mean, let's say he has the back strain, whatever. Beyond that, I don't think I'm looking at a situation that is unlike other situations that we've had since Mikel Arteta has been here with Aubameyang and with some other players. It just feels like there's always kind of something going on with somebody that, is out, out in the cold, on the naughty step, all that kind of stuff. So for me, when I look at Aubameyang, and I think this is where man management and knowing your players is really important. But Aubameyang has always been a guy that's like, you know what? It's about me. And most strikers are like that. It's about me. The last time I saw Aubameyang look really, really into what we were doing was in the FA Cup. And it was all about him. It was all about him. We played to his strengths. We played counterattacking football. He got tons of goals and he was happy. Then we started the season and we played in a completely different way. He was being asked to do things that weren't really in his skill set. And now this season, he's really being asked to manage or captain Project Youth and set up Smith Rowe and Saka for goals. And it's a tough ask. I think it's a tough ask to ask somebody who's at the back end of their career to just kind of sit back and take one for the team. And so I'm not really surprised that he just doesn't look like the Oba that we're used to. I haven't seen a smile in a while. I haven't seen a front flip in a while. And so this back strain coming out, I mean, it is what it is, because I still don't think he would be in my starting lineup tomorrow regardless. But
I want to be clear, the back strain thing may actually have been a joke. Speculation is illness now. I don't know. I'm not able to read what was just written, what tweeted. Oba out for tomorrow for missing training. What do you guys make of that, guys? We are actually talking about that right now. Has anybody had a chance to read the article? Because we're doing, I don't know if you noticed, we're doing a live stream, so we haven't been able to read it. But I would love to know what they're saying is the reason. The actual
and
reason.
why didn't it come out? So because he literally just I guess it could come out afterwards, but just a couple of earlier today, everybody was fit and ready to go. And now all of a sudden it's not, he wasn't in training. It's weird, but I just think it's a tough ask to ask somebody like Aubameyang to be captain in this Project Youth and not be the main character at the back end of his career. And Arteta took a big risk, going away from a way that played to the strengths of his best and most highest paid attackers. He took a big risk, and I don't think it's really going in his favor at the moment. So we're always in this, bring Aubameyang back in, try lacazette, what's going on with Pepe. So I don't know, going the next 6 months or so with these issues just seems so counterproductive, but it's kind of the space that we're in. But yeah, I don't really know. We're back. We're at Eddie and Nketiah potentially starting tomorrow. I mean, that's really not.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, look, so Oba being out tomorrow, Watts is speculating it's illness. I mean, illness gives me big Ozil vibes, but I'm going to tell you something. I did the whole thing about speculating the last time they said Aubameyang had illness, and I'm not going to do it again. If that's what they're saying, I'm prepared to accept it. The timing of it, this, and look, we're in the time of COVID, and who knows if it's non-COVID or COVID or what the case is. You don't want to speculate, but the Aubameyang thing just feels like a ticking time bomb a bit, because again, it's the highest paid player into his 30s, not producing, getting sat down, getting kids who are leaving subbed on ahead of him. And it feels like one of these situations that can blow up. Now, Arteta won the battle with Ozil, and rightfully so. I think it's fair to say, for, we love him or hate him, Ozil's time was done. But Arteta is really one of the people that committed to Aubameyang and put him on this new contract. And I do wonder if you think, again, without speculating now about whether he really is ill or not, could an Aubameyang falling out more than what's happening on the pitch sow the seeds for a problem for Mikel as manager? Because those senior players, Lacazette and Aubameyang in particular, are on big money. They're thick as thieves. Laka will be going in the summer, but I don't think you want to be going to war with those guys.
Well, especially because you're going to go the rest of the season having to rely upon these guys.
This sounds bad. Read this real quick. It's not clear at this stage why Aubameyang was absent on Friday, but there are suggestions that he could be unwell. Well, that clears it right up. Clear as mud. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it just going to the back, like the rest of the season with on the outs potentially with people that you will need is not good. And he's the captain of the team. And I personally, for me, being in locker rooms, that hierarchy matters regardless. It just does. Even if somebody's not playing well, if they're the captain, that's the person that you follow regardless. And I think he does have a lot of say, and the younger players follow him and Lacazette and stuff. So I think, again, it's a huge risk, being on the outs with somebody like Aubameyang, especially because you're going to need him at some point. Again, it's a big risk that I think Arteta didn't really need to take. But then that also goes back to what manager potentially puts himself in this position with senior attackers that he needs if he doesn't feel like he's completely safe in his job. If I'm not safe, I'm going to play to Aubameyang and Pepe and Martinelli's strengths because I need them. But he's done the complete opposite, knowing that he has 6 or something months to go in a season where we kind of need Europe. So these are the things that keep me up at night. I'm like, so what's actually going on? But
I would disagree only in this respect. I mean, look, everybody said Oba out wide isn't the solution. He moved Oba up front. He's played him at center forward. He's given him that chance. The goals haven't come. He's missed big chances, sitters really, that could have made a difference in our season. He's not getting enough chances. I think this is, I do love to hit you with the two things can be true. And it is true that I think Mikel Arteta's football does not create enough big chances, and also true that his forwards, his center forward in particular, have let him down and been a problem. Now, why is Aubameyang still at the club? Because Arteta made the decision in part with other people at the club to re-sign him. And I know at the time the circumstances were different, but you can't re-sign an aging striker whose game is largely built on pace and athleticism and say, we have to do this. We have no choice but to do this. And then complain when said aging striker a year or two later has gone over that age curve and does not look like he can do it anymore, because that's what you signed up for. So sometimes it's chickens coming home to roost a bit. And I just think that this is a bit of a case of that. It was always my feeling that re-signing Aubameyang when we did, I thought we'd get one really good more additional season probably out of him. I'm not sure we even really got that, but it felt to me a lot like there was going to be a bad ending, because there would become a point where this big character with, a big ego like any striker would be mid-30s, 32, 33, scoring 8-9 goals, not getting the chances he needs, not playing as much as maybe he likes. And it's just rare that that's ever going to be a good situation when it's the guy getting the biggest wage at the club. I think we should talk a little bit about some other lineup stuff and get your questions in. By the way, also get your weather stuff in. Snowstorm outside my window right now. Absolutely. I was going to say pissing down, but snow doesn't really piss down. So kind of like fluffing down, but it's a big snowstorm. Get your questions in. What am I drinking? So it's funny, it's almost gone now, but did you ever see the movie Dune? In the movie
No.
Dune, there's these things called still suits, and they recycle your sweat and stuff, and then you can drink it and stuff if you're out in the
Is that
desert.
what that is?
I have a still suit that recycles my tears from the United and Everton games, and then I can just drink them back.
Should
So
be
I'm
tons of
hydrated
those.
to start crying again tomorrow. So, it all works out. How about this, Jess? Striker or midfielder for January? It is an interesting one, right? Because Balogun's not ready. He needs to go on loan. Nketiah is not the answer. We'll talk about Nketiah more in a moment. Martinelli might get a shot at times. And Aubameyang is still here, so we have to use him. It is interesting to me to wonder, if we did create more chances and progress the ball better, would Aubameyang maybe come to life and still be able to put enough chances home? So which would you prioritize? I think maybe the hard part is I don't know what striker you're going to get in January. What you don't want to do, you don't want to buy a stopgap striker solution. So I don't know. If either were possible in January, do you have a feel for where you'd go?
I think if we created enough chances, the attackers that we have would be fine. I just look at that group and I don't see a barren desert. I see players that need to be utilized better. I looked at a chart today that had like all the attackers in the Premier League. It looks like if Emile Smith-Rowe has more shots, he'll just score more goals. Like Saka, if he just finishes his chances, we'll be better off. We know what Martinelli's about. So even if you just look at those three players, I think you can do something if we create more chances for them. So for me, it's always going to be the midfield. I could not understand why we didn't address it in the summer, because I think it's our biggest, it's a glaring issue for me. And with Thomas Partey looking the way that he is and him being out in January, it would be nice to have another midfielder. Now, I don't know what that looks like, because any really good midfielder is not going to be on the outs or ready to go in January, so it's a strange one to try to figure out what we could actually get. But I think midfield is where I would go. And I would maybe go in the direction of somebody that could help us progress the ball, dribbling and passing. Not another DM, because I feel like we're going to do something with that in the summer, but somebody that can get us going, a connection between the defense and attack that's not quite like xhaka, because he can only pass us out of trouble, and he does an okay job at it, but he's not great. I think there's something we could do there. So for me, it would be midfield. But I mean, this is where it's like, okay, we need to be creative. We need to bring in somebody that fits still the profile that we're looking for. So I do have some work to do there. And the last thing you want him to do is be calling up his buddies and bringing in Ramsey on a loan. That's the last thing you really want. But, who knows with this club?
Yeah.
Mid-season loans don't really go well, do they?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, Odegaard last January was a pretty good one, to be fair. I mean,
that was the best one that we've had.
Well, we've had some really good January signings, though. You know what I mean? Some of our big, Aubameyang, who I think was a good signing to begin with, was a January signing. Arshavin, he had a pretty big impact. Let me ask you this, Jess, in terms of just needing to make a signing, let's say the next 5 games go pretty well before City on the 1st of the new year. January 1st, we play City, and then our next league fixture after that is Spurs away. But between now and then, we have games. Every single game we play between now and January 1st, we should be roughly favored in. Maybe not big time, but roughly. West Ham is at our place, so we might be slight favorites there. And again, we can't beat bad teams away. Maybe we can't beat anyone. Who knows? I'm setting that aside for a minute. If we manage to go on a run, we're going to be in touching distance of top 4. Look, no one's running away with 4th place this season. No, I don't see anyone going on the kind of run unless United really turn it on under Ragnick. I don't think anyone's going to run away with top 4. Does the club have an obligation to push the boat out in January if top 4 is a possibility because of the windfall and shortcut of the process it brings, whether you like Mikel or not? I understand saying, I don't want to give Mikel more money. He needs to go prove it with what we've already spent. But if you have a chance to potentially bring Champions League football to Arsenal again, and you think there's a signing that can do it, maybe it's a summer signing you bring forward. I sort of think if ever you were going to make a splash in January, I don't know how long this window will be open where top 4 is available to someone, to some ambitious team that goes on a run. And a lot of the teams we're competing against will have knockout European football in late winter, early spring. We won't. I think there's a big, big prize dangling out there for the team that's daring and gets on a run. So would you push the boat out in January?
I think a big club does. I would think that results really matter. Those fine margins really matter to clubs that are really competitive. So I would imagine that a big club does that. Manchester United went out in January transfer window and brought in Bruno Fernandes, and that changed everything about what they do now. I mean, he's, for me, been one of the best signings in the Premier League for like last 4 or 5 years in terms of impact. And that happened in January. They didn't wait to the end of the season because who knows if they'd be able to attract him. I think they were languishing in 15th or something like that before he came in. And so, yeah, I think a big club does do that, not just because they're suffering, but because there may be an opportunity to make something happen. This is the first time in a while that it feels like you can break into the top 4 because of all the inconsistencies in the teams below the top 3. Now, as much as for me, I don't think top 4, we are there we're in and around it in proximity, but I feel like in terms of what we are at the moment, we're not really there. But I think a big club does it just because they don't want to finish outside of the European positions. It's a slippery slope. I mean, we're talking about top 4, but top 6 keeps us in Europe as well. So I think looking at how close everything is, and even beyond 4th, there'll be about 3 or 4 teams fighting for 2 positions. I think you do have to be smart and go get something done. Now, do I think we'll do it? I don't know. You know how we are, but I think a big club does it, not only to try to take advantage of an opportunity, but to make sure you don't miss out on the objective in its entirety, which is making it into Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I just think like the whole goal is first to get back into the Champions League. It changes a lot. And I think you look at what we're going to need to do replacing strikers. Lacazette's going to go. Aubameyang, if he doesn't go this summer, his time is ticking away. And midfield with Xhaka and Partey will need another piece, and striker will need another piece. They're arguably 2 of the most expensive pieces to address properly, and they're arguably 2 of the hardest to recruit. And if you have Champions League money and Champions League prestige, you can make next summer the big striker, big midfielder summer, and really do something special. And I think that's just a huge boost at a time when we really need it. But I'm going to put something up here as a banner that is, I would like to say, sort of the erudite opening to a conversation that you expect from this podcast. Nketiah. Discuss. Jess, I don't know what to make of this. I think what's really weird is the life cycle of players at Arsenal. It is a really weird thing because you'll get these players, they kind of break into the team. They kind of got a little run. Maybe they got something about them, and then we're not really sure they're at the level. That's okay. They got their chance. We're ready to move on from them. Maybe they'll loan them out. No, we didn't loan them out. We're not using them at all. No minutes, no appearances. Then poof, he's on ahead of Aubameyang. He's on ahead of Pepe. And now it wouldn't surprise me if he's starting tomorrow and we're trying to give him a new contract. And I just, this is one where there doesn't appear to be a lot of joined up thinking. And I said on the pod, I think what would benefit Arteta is to have a guy like Wenger had with Dean who can whisper in his ear, let's move this one on. Let's go find you something that's a better fit. Or this guy Balogun's going to be knocking on the door after. We'll loan him out in January, and Balogun next year might be a guy we want to give minutes to. So let's not block that path. Or just something to have a coherent strategy of what we're doing at the position. And it doesn't feel to me like keeping Nketiah around, not because I think he's bad, but he's not going to be the Arsenal striker we need. And I just feel like I presume, I feel like this is one where the thinking has been all over the place. We're going to loan him. I don't want to loan him. Oops, I forgot to use him. Now he's back. He wants to leave. We're going to use him again. Like, what do you make of Nketiah? And do you think it's possible? Tim said on the pod today, he thinks he'll start tomorrow. And now with the Oba news, certainly looks like it's possible.
Okay. The Nketiah thing. So he's just not, okay. So when he came in against Everton, he had a good little cameo. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I still feel like there's 2 discussions that you can have there. If he does, get the goal that draws the game, I think you can really force that narrative that like that was the right decision to make, but it was strange. And for me, you're looking at somebody like Nicola Pepe, like, okay, what are we doing here? And I found it, for me, it seems so pointed and so needless, it's weird. But because he played well, we can kind of build that narrative that it was the right decision to play him at a position. Now, I mean, why are we forcing it? He doesn't really want to stay. We have other players that I feel like should take priority over Eddie Nketiah, in Balogun, who just signed a new long-term deal, and Martinelli. I mean, Balogun is just wasting away in the under 23s, and Martinelli is our superstar, and we're prioritizing Eddie Nketiah, who, when I look at him, this is personally for me, I don't see him as more talented than those two. So I don't, maybe Arteta knows more than me, but I don't get it. Like, I really, really don't. And I feel like we're spending time trying to give somebody playing time. If Saka and ESR and Martinelli are fit tomorrow, they should play because they have contracts. Playing Eddie, just like playing El Neni, is just going backwards, and he's not signing. So I don't really get it. But this is another one of those situations where I feel like, maybe his priorities are a little bit out of line. And Nketiah signing a new deal with us, what does that do for us anyway? We just have another striker clogging up the pipeline to really talented youngsters that's never really deemed to be the answer to what we're doing. We're still going to have to buy a new striker still. So, like, what is the point? And that's not to be mean to Nketiah. I just don't see it. I don't get it. We're spending a lot of time talking about him, and he doesn't have a contract.
What we have to stop doing, I think in general, are two things. First of all, we have to stop the suggestion that a player is either fantastic and really should be starting games for Arsenal or they stink, because that's not the reality. Eddie Nketiah is a good player, and we've seen him be pretty good when he comes on. What makes football management hard and running football clubs hard is deciding what to do, not with bums. It's deciding what to do with the players who aren't quite going to get there. Turn that into revenue and then reset the squad, improve the squad. Alex Iwobi is a great example of this. A good player, a good academy kid at Arsenal. He was not a bum. He was not terrible. We made the hard decision to take a really good fee for him. And that was a good decision because you know what it meant? It meant that players like Saka and Smith Rowe could come into the side. Saka plays on the left wing. Smith Rowe plays on the right wing. When Saka came in, Smith Rowe plays on the left wing. Saka plays on the right wing. When Smith Rowe came in, Saka came in, he was on the left wing. If Alex Iwobi is still on the side, one of those two players is getting fewer minutes or not playing at all. Or Iwobi winds up out of the squad and not earning us any money. We did the hard thing, and it proved to be the right thing, and it created a pathway for better younger players, renewed the squad, gave us resources to go spend elsewhere. Whether we did that right, that, your mileage may vary. Eddie Nketiah is a player who, because we've dithered him, we didn't loan, and we think we want to use him, and we're not going to use him, and we thought we'd use him, but we just didn't find a place to use him. Well, now we're using him again. We could lose him for a tribunal fee. That should never happen with a player that you had this much time and warning to do something with. So if we get him to re-sign, it's great, because if you can get a fee instead of a tribunal, yeah, all right, that's ideal. But you also haven't put him in the shop window enough to really establish what that fee might be. He should have been loaned last season. Instead, he sat on the bench and didn't do anything. And sometimes wasn't in the matchday squad. And now he's just sort of reappeared, ironically, or maybe not ironically, right before the January transfer window reopens. And when that, pre-contract is going to be available to be signed. So it all, again, it is never the case that it is just players are obviously bums and you move them on, or they're obviously stars and you start them. Jess, it is a shade of gray. But the thing that's tough is when you have very, very valuable prime age assets like Pepe who cannot get on the pitch, and less valuable assets who may be leaving for next to nothing, who have not consistently proven to be at the level, getting on the pitch ahead of them and ahead of, senior strikers. That's when people look, I'm not saying it's dumb. I'm just saying you can't help but have people scratching their head a bit. There's a lot of decisions that are hard to just line up and say, here's the logic behind it.
So I have a question, because I feel like this is how I kind of feel, but again, we're in speculationville, so we don't really know. But I think Nicholas Freeland said Arteta values obedience over talent. I don't know if obedience is the right word, but I feel like sometimes I do feel like he likes players that are the nice ones, and he tends to put them in front of the queue instead of the more talented ones. It feels a little bit like whenever he mentions Nketiah, it's about how he shows up, what he does in training. He's always a professional, la di da di da di da di da. We know Valigan is a little bit of he's a little bit more like, he's very confident in who he is and all of that. His agent even spoke out, or his brother or something, about how Arteta's football doesn't really create a lot of chances for strikers. We've seen how he is in the under 23. So do you kind of feel that way too, about maybe there's not enough value or not enough prioritization in terms of talent over the players that are nice and follow direction?
The hard thing, right, with any of these conversations, and it is difficult in general, right, to know there's a lot of information we don't have, right? Like, for example, what if I told you, the rumors about Aubameyang are true, he is just ill. What if I told you that Pepe actually was carrying a niggle, or, Sambi's injured? None of this, that's probably the case. I'm just saying, like,
But it
there's
could
a lot
be,
of speculation.
we
It
don't
could
know.
be. There's a lot of speculation involved in choices that are made by the manager that you'll never know. I think the bigger issue for me with the Nketiah thing, if you just set it aside from Mikel for a second, is just purely from a structural organizational standpoint. It's similar to El Neni, but different, because he's Nketiah is an academy player and he's young. You have these players where it feels like the point to make a decision about what to do with them was back there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Last January, Eddie should have gone on loan, scored a handful of goals. I mean, look what we did with Joe Willock. We turned Joe Willock into a real fee, and right now Newcastle don't even know how to use him. And, I'm not celebrating that. I like Joe Willock. He's an Arsenal Academy kid, and I hope he finds a place where he can really shine. It was not going to be at Arsenal, in my view, and we did the right thing, and we used a loan to get there. Could we have done the same with Nketiah? Should El Neni have been out of this club a little while ago? Should Granit Xhaka? You know where we're going to be next season. Next season, it's going to be, November, and we're going to be saying, gosh, 2 summers ago was really the chance we had to move on Xhaka, and we decided to resign, because these decisions get kicked down the road. And I just think structurally, I actually don't think players we bought have been the problem with Arsenal recently. It's the decisions we punted on, right? Not selling Ramsey, not selling Alexis, not selling Ozil, not selling Oba, not selling Nketiah, not selling Reece Nelson, players we've held on to, waiting for the right moment. El Neni sticks around. Kolasinac is still here, and I get there was nowhere he was going to go. So, I just think in general, these are scenarios where a little bit of bravery and willingness to move players on, and recognize that sometimes you're going to move a player on and go, oops, we did that. But you look forward and you try to build for the future. So let's set Nketiah aside for a minute and talk a little bit about the game tomorrow specifically, and the lineup and what we're going to do. I'm curious what you think will happen with Xhaka. Xhaka came right back in, and that first half against Everton looked a lot like a Granit Xhaka first half. He's dropping into the left half space defensively. Partey's isolated in midfield. One shot on target. The only other shot was, Partey's satellite destroying, seeking missile. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, if you told me it'd be Martinelli up front or Nketiah up front, or Lokonga would come in for either Thomas or Xhaka, Tavares could be in or out. I don't know. Do you have any sense of the decision in particular? Do you assume Xhaka will keep his place? Because also, look, it's 2 games in a week for a guy who's been out for months and played 90 minutes. So he just may not be ready for that. What do you expect him to do?
I expect Granit Xhaka to start and play all 90 minutes tomorrow.
You brave soul.
When he's here, he plays. And more than any player, I've never seen a manager be so strapped to another, a manager be strapped to a player in this way, because bringing him in against Everton was, you didn't need to. You could have brought him in at home against Southampton after training a little bit more. You could have played Sambi Lokonga, but he chose to bring him in the moment that he could stand on 2 feet and kick a ball. So I would imagine that he's been dying to have Granit back, his captain on the pitch, the guy that's going to, I don't know, shout the instructions. I don't know. And so I think it's Xhaka plus Partey, Xhaka plus Lokonga. It will just be that. And unfortunately, what that also brings back is, the slower buildup and the lack of progression and the left side bias, which I thought we had kind of gotten away from a little bit. And when you have Tierney there on the left-hand side, it just brings back that really predictable, left half space pass and then slam it across the goal and hope that somebody taps it in. So it's kind of like, we all know it's that. As much as we probably would want it to be something else, it's that. But I think it'll be interesting to see what Arteta does in terms of that front four, and if Kieran Tierney actually does keep his spot. Tavares has done so well. He brought him in. He didn't really. Tavares was okay, but he was culpable, I think, for one of those goals against Everton. So it'll be interesting to see if he keeps Tierney in or whatever. But that left side bias thing that we have is so played and stale. Like, they got to freshen that thing up. That is, and it also hurt Martinelli. So we'll see what happens. But we both know that it's going to be Granit, isn't it? I know you want it to be something else, but you knew I was going to say that.
This is what's so weird, right? Like, I mean, you wind up with these situations where, like Maitland-Niles had come in, he had started to get a role in the midfield. He was man of the match in the last game he was in. Now it doesn't feel like he'd even be in for selection remotely. Sambi Lokonga was a man of the match against Newcastle, dropped for United, dropped for Everton. So I don't know what happens with these things, but if Xhaka and Partey is the duo he wants in there, then I presume we'll see it. Maybe Partey gets dropped and gets a rest. I think Xhaka could be dropped for this game more as a rest thing because, we played, when was our game? Monday? I guess it's almost a full week of rest for him. So no, of course he's going to play 90. Who am I kidding?
He's got to build up that fitness.
Yeah. Do you think it'll be Tierney? Tierney again?
The
fact that he got subbed off was weird to me. I mean,
yeah, that's why I'm like, but Tavares, for me, if he could be
he's all chaos and energy all the time.
If he could be a little bit more conservative in certain situations, I do think he adds something. And you can't pin him to the left-hand side because he is two-footed and he can do a little bit more than Tierney in terms of coming central. And he gives us a different option. And I think he's more comfortable at home as well. I think most of the games that Tavares has had, like, okay, what's going on here? He was away from home. I could see him coming back in. I wonder about Kieran Tierney. I'm not sure what's going on. I thought it was just let's get him back fit and let's see what's going on. But I would say that there are things that Arteta probably likes about Nuno Tavares, and it's not so much about Tierney getting up to fitness. It's about, I actually like what Tavares is doing, which makes Tierney's position in the team a little bit like, ooh, what's going on here? So I wouldn't mind seeing Nuno at home against a struggling Southampton. And it also keeps you from having to have that Xhaka passing it to Tierney, slam it across the, box and hope. I think it will stop that a little bit.
Yeah. Quick note, Poorly Drawn Arsenal in the chat. Check out Poorly Drawn Arsenal's site and get some of his fantastic artwork. It was actually featured in the latest video by the club to release the new retro gear. He did a bunch of cards that are just fantastic, but really, really cool stylistic artwork that you will enjoy and should consume immediately. Leave the chat, leave the live stream, go there, get his stuff because it is sensational.
What have you made of Nuno and KT in that situation? Who do you prefer?
So it's hard, right? Because it is easy to forget what we love about good players. Kieran Tierney was a player we were saying is going to be a future captain at Arsenal and a fantastic player. I don't know that I love the way we play with Tierney, but that's not a Tierney thing, right? This Xhaka dropping into the left back spot, or nominal left back spot, and Tierney bombing up forward where he's not a two-way, it's weird. Tierney doesn't really play two ways in the same way Tavares does. Tavares really up and down the touchline, plays more in a midfield area where he can drop back to cover defensively. He's got that explosive pace and the ability to go shoulder to shoulder, take a guy off the ball, and then get up the pitch. Likes to cut inside a little bit more, where Tierney likes to get outside and deliver the crosses. Tierney created our goal against Everton, and did so really nicely. But I do think when we play Tierney, we become more dependent on Xhaka to Tierney, left wing, cross it. And I don't think that's Tierney's fault, but I think that pattern of play has led me to be more antagonistic to that selection, right? If you follow what I'm saying, I think Tierney is clearly the more polished, ready player. Tavares has things in his game that are going to hurt you. Look at the goal Everton scored from the throw in, bad throw. Partey doesn't do him any favors in the way he gives it back to him. We've seen Nuno make mistakes. I think Tierney is the more polished, ready player. I think I like the way we play with Tavares better. I'd just pick Tierney, not play the way we play when Tierney plays. But I think if Tavares develops it, builds up on his game from where he is now, I think we have a frighteningly good player who can challenge Tierney for the long term. For right now, it's probably Tierney, and I'm fine with that. I think up front, is it interesting? Like, one of the things I'm curious about, Jess, is do you think he'll put Lacazette back into the role that had kind of worked at the expense of Odegaard, who was probably man of the match for us in a bad game, and man of the match in that Everton game is a loose honorarium. But that's another interesting one, because I don't think he can start Lacazette up front again. That he just, no shots. I mean, like, you can't have a center forward that doesn't get shots, doesn't get touches in the box, doesn't create chances.
It was so bad.
But could he go to like Martinelli up front with Lacazette in behind like he was with Aubameyang? Or do you think it'll be Odegaard? Let's pick them. What are those two spots? Odegaard and Martinelli, Odegaard and Nketiah, Odegaard and Lacazette and Martinelli, Lacazette and Nketiah. I think those are the choices. Pepe obviously is contractually prohibited from playing football for Arsenal anymore. So what do you think?
Well, just speaking on Odegaard first, he's getting into some form. Had Aubameyang not touched that one shot that he had, he might have 4 goals already. And that says a lot for a team that's really struggling to score. As many questions as I have about Odegaard and his physicality and athleticism, I think he's coming into some form and he's showing a little bit of life. Unlike Thomas Partey, who is kind of went deeper into this pit of despair, Odegaard had a game that, I mean, he was man of the match for 1 second and the antagonist or whatever right after giving up that penalty. And he came in against Everton and I thought was good despite how bad the midfield was. You cannot drop Odegaard. And I know that it's like, well, he just played, maybe we can rest him. This is why we have 1 game a week. He's a part of our future. We spent 30 million on him. Lacazette doesn't have a contract. He's going to leave at the end of the season. So I get why Arteta did the 4-4-2. And I personally feel like it was more because Aubameyang didn't have the buildup necessary. Not Odegaard wasn't good enough to play in the 10 role. So for me, I'd like us to prioritize the players that have contracts, the players that are in form. And Lacazette doesn't have a contract and is not in form. So Odegaard starts, and then that informs your decisions, moving forward. So for me, I think it should be Martinelli that starts in the 9 position. But I know it won't be. I know it won't, because we haven't seen him there yet.
To be fair,
it'll be Nketiah.
To be fair, like, we do this. And so if you watch NFL football, and I know most of you people in this chat do not want to hear about NFL football, but there's a saying, the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town, right? When a team is struggling, the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town, because you can breathe all of your hopes and dreams, wish cast all of your best ideas about what the team could be into the guy who's not playing. Martinelli is a talented player. We saw what he did when he came off the bench and scored that wonderful goal. And I think he's a lovely player with a big future. The idea that we're going to stick him up front and boom, there it is, that's what we've been missing. That is probably wish casting. He is a young player, hasn't had a lot of football under his belt lately, and he has never been a center forward for us. Do I think that's where his career will take him? I actually do, but it's still notional. He's only ever really been a wide forward for us. So, like, there is this tendency to sort of think the guy who's not playing, like, I would love to see Pepe at center forward, but I fully acknowledge that that's just fantasy land. Who knows? Like, he could just be, he could be everything that's wrong with Pepe, but worse. Well, go ahead. What?
But this is where having, we're having all of your senior attackers be either out of form, out in the cold, or just not the right decisions, because ultimately that is your option. Your option is to bring in Martinelli and try to play him up top, or Nketiah. I don't think either of those options are the answer, but also Lacazette is not the answer. So I think right now I'm choosing more based on the future, because that's all I really have to look forward to, because nobody's in form. People are out in the cold, but I think it'll be Nketiah, because that'll also back up his choice against Everton to play through the middle. And then you'll see ESR and Bukayo Saka and Odegaard. and Martinelli won't play. That's
what do you
I
think
think
about
will happen.
Nuno as a wide forward? I mean, I don't know that we have the proof that
Gosh.
this is really the issue, right, Jess? Is the problem is you start to get into the options, and whether it's Smith Rowe or Saka, which we hope it is, Pepe's out in the cold. Whether you pick Lacazette or Nketiah, whether you pick Nuno Tavares, I don't think we have that player where you say, if I play that guy, the one thing I know is there's goals in him. The reason I think I do like Martinelli is I really believe if Martinelli plays 90 minutes, there's going to be very few games where he doesn't either make a goal or score a goal, because I just think he's such an end product monster. He takes lots of shots. He creates lots of shots. And we don't have that in the side so much. But like, do you think Smith Rowe will be fit enough to start? Because I think, love it or hate it, his second man runs and his ability to drift inside and maybe pose different challenges for the defenders. I think I love Martinelli. I think we missed Smith Rowe, because the other thing, like, if you notice against Everton, we really struggled to progress the ball and have that advanced possession that we saw like in the Newcastle game. So the way our midfield works, you have the two midfielders usually, let's say Partey and Lokonga in the past. And then above them, it was Lacazette and ESR, or Odegaard and ESR, right? Because Smith Rowe would drift in. Then out on the wing, you'd have Saka. Aubameyang would kind of come into the other channel. But you get that box in midfield. Martinelli's not going to give you that. He's going to go up and join the front line of attack. So you lose that one. Xhaka was dropping out to the back left, right to the left defensive half space. No one's following this at this point. But so what you were left with was sort of an isolated tactical fingers. Let's call this stream Tactical Fingers from now on. From now on, the title of the stream is Tactical Fingers. Look, I could be a coach. Laka.
Oh my gosh.
Laka.
Well, you have to do the little these, because I don't know. Pep and Arteta both do these, and I don't know what these are.
No, Laka, not this. This. Okay, but the point is, like, I think we wound up isolated with Odegaard sort of occupying a lot of that attacking third space, and Partey having the whole midfield to himself. We need that box. We need that box back. So I don't know. What do you think about Smith Rowe coming back and becoming like a really, really integral part of not just linking midfield to attack, but then making the second man runs? And please try to use as many tactical fingers as possible.
Well, Smith Rowe is one of our only players that's scoring goals. So that's a big reason why I think he needs to come back into the side. And we've seen this before, that I think Arteta kind of would he would rather have 80% Saka or ESR than anything else, because those two players in particular get us up the pitch. I don't really know. I think it has something to do with our midfield not being able to progress the ball particularly well. They're easy to mark out of the game because all you have to do is put a striker and a midfielder on them, then put somebody on Odegaard, and bam, there's nobody really in between the lines to receive the ball and progress it for us. So that's what kind of works for us, is getting ESR and Saka out wide and doing their thing. And so I do believe he'll come back in regardless to if he's 100% or not. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't feel like we can live and be successful without the two of them. And at some point, they're going to need a rest, and they're not really getting it. But I do think that ESR is the key to what we're doing in terms of progressing the ball into the box. And it was interesting because Arteta said that, in terms of our attacking stats being so bad, that the players need to take more risk and practice more. And I saw like an interesting quote from Arsene, who said that when you have young attacking players, you need to let them be creative, like really be creative. Don't try to stifle them at all. And then you try to hone them down a little bit later, but you let them express themselves. I think that that's what's missing. I feel like Saka and ESR and Odegaard have a lot more creativity in them. Nuno Tavares has a lot of creativity in him, but Arteta's trying to do that to it, and he needs to just kind of let them do their thing. I think they're so much more creative than we give them credit for, but without them, we have like zero creativity. So they need to come in. With Nuno as a wide forward, what I would prefer to see is him as a wing back. I don't think he's technical enough in my mind, to be like our highest forward. But if we wanted to play a 3-4-3, which I would not mind seeing at some point, I know you don't love it as much, but Kieran Tierney as the left center back and Nuno Tavares as the left wing back, I think would be something that I'd like to see us do, against Chelsea, against Man City, against those teams.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the heart of the matter. By the way, I thought that was good from you, Jess, but I've got to give it like a 3 out of 10 for lack of tactical fingers. This is, after all, Laka. the tactical fingers live stream. Let's do prediction time. Pretty important. Here we go. What do you got for tomorrow?
You guys are going to
get your prediction in the chat, everybody. Let's get it. By the way, spoilers. Paul predicted a 2-2 on the podcast, and he has
so it's not me. Okay, so it's not me. So I try to be more positive in the last couple of games, even though I didn't feel confident. I think we are in the middle of a mini pre-crisis, to be honest. And so I see a
mini
1-1.
pre-crisis. Mini pre-crisis. That is a new one. Mini pre-crisis.
Because I couldn't see it, because I don't want to go too far in. So it's like, it's mini, but it's like pre the big crisis that we know can come after a couple. I mean, come on, we have to win this game. We can't do 3 on the bounce. But what do you think? Are you feeling confident? Because I wasn't confident before Everton, nor was I before Man United. Still predicted wins, didn't get those. We're at home against a really struggly Southampton team, but we were against a struggly Everton team. Are you feeling confident? Do you feel good about it?
I think at home, I think we'll be okay. I mean, I don't know who puts the goals in the net for Arsenal, but I think if Smith Rowe is back, he could get one. I still think, I still think that Martinelli, if he plays, is a guy who's going to get goals. Southampton press. And it's interesting, right? Because they're not very good, but they do press. And what I would say is that, this is a good test for us, because the press has been a bit of kryptonite. But you can get past their press. I don't think there's much to be scared of with them. I agree, though. We're in a mini pre-crisis. We are in a bit of a mini pre-crisis. But I am going to say 2-1 to the Arsenal. And I could see that I see that 2-0 situation where we then let them back in all the way. Maybe they get an 85th minute one to make it 2-1, and we're all going, we did it again. We stopped playing. And then it gets a little nervy, but we come away with it at 2-1. So yeah,
they have a 40-year-old goalkeeper. They don't have their number 1 center backs. They're going to be missing a central midfielder. So if there was ever a time to feel confident in trying to attack, it's tomorrow. But hey, you never know.
Look, Cliff, if I say it's a mini pre-crisis, it's a mini pre-crisis. But if you're going to super chat us and you want to call it a crisis, and my God, it's a crisis. We'll let Cliff have his way for that. Thank you, Cliff. All too kind.
Okay, it's a crisis.
What's our expected grief? Well, the only good news is it's not a 7 a.m. for me here or 5 a.m. It's a 9 a.m. kickoff. I might even be on the booze by the time this game wraps up. Well, the instant reaction pod at full time. There'll be more from Jess and I and others in the near future. But Jess, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Please make sure to follow Jess on Twitter at It's Jessinho. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon. All right. My name is Alex Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. We do love you so much for being here. Thank you for giving us a chance to do these. I know they can be silly, they can be fun, but the idea is that we'll do more of them. We want to be here more to get your thoughts involved. We'll get more fancy graphics. We'll bring in more fun guests once people realize that we actually are here doing these, and hopefully that will continue to be the case. Hey, if you want to like and subscribe, you can. Just remember to gently caress the button. You don't have to smash it, because your devices are valuable and we don't want to be the cause of them being harmed. I hope you have a great day tomorrow. I hope you enjoy the game. I hope it's a great one. I hope we all come away feeling buoyed by the prediction I am about to make. And most of all, thank you for being here. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Southampton 0.